The Great Dismissal, the massive crystalline chambers of the Galactic Council stretched upward like a cathedral built from starlight itself. Thousands of alien delegates filled the tiered seats, their various forms creating a tapestry of colors, shapes, and sizes that would have amazed any human. At the center of this grand assembly stood a single figure in a simple blue uniform, her black hair pulled back in a professional bun, her dark eyes steady despite the weight of countless stares upon her. Ambassador Sarah Chen had traveled farther from home than any human before her. The journey to the Council's homeworld had taken 3 months, using Earth's most advanced ships, vessels that the aliens around her considered laughably primitive. She carried with her the hopes and dreams of 8 billion humans, all waiting to hear if their species would be welcomed into the galactic community. The massive form of Chancellor Vextar rose from the central podium. His species, the Karathi, stood nearly 12 feet tall, with thick gray skin and 4 powerful arms. His voice boomed through the chamber's translation systems, reaching every ear in dozens of languages. "We have reviewed Earth's application for Council membership," Vextar announced, his tone carrying the weight of absolute authority. "After careful consideration of your species' technological capabilities, military strength, and cultural development, the Council has reached its decision." Sarah felt her heart pound in her chest. Around her, alien delegates whispered among themselves, some with what seemed like amusement, others with barely concealed disdain. She had spent weeks in preliminary meetings, presenting humanity's achievements, their art, their science, their desire for peaceful cooperation with other species. "The human species," Vextar continued, "lacks the fundamental requirements for Council membership. Your technology is centuries behind our least advanced member species. Your military consists of chemical rockets and metal projectiles. Your ships cannot even achieve proper faster-than-light travel without relying on outdated fusion drives." A ripple of laughter spread through the assembly. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. She had expected skepticism, but the open mockery stung more than she had anticipated. "Furthermore," another voice called out from the assembly, this one belonging to a serpentine creature with glowing scales, "humans have barely left their own solar system. They know nothing of real space warfare, of plasma weaponry, of quantum shields. They would be a liability to any serious galactic operation." "Indeed," agreed a third delegate, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish made of living crystal. "Their diplomatic protocols are primitive. They still wage wars among themselves on their own planet. How can such a divided species contribute to galactic peace?" Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "Honored delegates, humanity may be young compared to your ancient civilizations, but we have qualities that should not be dismissed. Our creativity, our adaptability, our determination to overcome any obstacle." "Determination?" Vextar's laugh was like grinding stone. "Child, determination means nothing without the power to act upon it. Your species has sent us specifications for your most advanced warship. Our patrol vessels carry more firepower than your entire fleet combined." The holographic display above the chamber activated, showing detailed schematics of Earth's newest destroyer-class vessel. The assembled aliens studied it with the same attention they might give to an ancient museum piece. "Look at this design," commented a delegate with multiple eyes on stalks. "Chemical propulsion for maneuvering, metal armor plating, electromagnetic projectile weapons. This technology was abandoned by most species before they achieved spaceflight." "It's almost quaint," added another voice from somewhere in the upper tiers, "like watching children play with toy soldiers." Sarah felt the heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her voice steady. "We may use different methods, but we've never lost a war we were determined to win. Humanity doesn't give up." "Wars against other humans," Vextar said dismissively. "There is a vast difference between fighting your own species with primitive weapons and facing a real galactic power. The Council has responsibilities to maintain order across thousands of star systems. We cannot afford to babysit a species that barely understands the basics of interstellar conflict." The Chancellor gestured with one of his 4 arms, and the chamber's great doors began to open behind Sarah. The message was clear. The Council's decision is final. Humanity's application for membership is rejected. You are free to reapply once your species has achieved proper technological and military development. We estimate this may occur in approximately 500 of your years, assuming optimal progress. Sarah stood frozen for a moment, the weight of failure crushing down on her shoulders. 8 billion people had placed their trust in her, and she was returning home empty-handed. The alien delegates were already turning away, losing interest now that the entertainment was over. But as she walked toward those massive doors, Sarah's spine straightened. She turned back to face the assembly one final time. "You're making a mistake," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "Humanity remembers those who help us, and we remember those who don't. Today, you've shown us exactly who you are. We won't forget." Some of the delegates turned back to look at her, more amused than concerned by her words. Vextar's expression remained unchanged. "Empty threats from a species that can barely reach beyond their own moon," he replied. "Run along home, little human. Come back when you have something more than determination to offer." The doors sealed behind Sarah with a sound like thunder. 3 weeks later, Sarah sat in the secure briefing room beneath the Colorado mountains, her report complete. Across from her sat Admiral Marcus Webb, a man whose weathered face told the story of 40 years in Earth's space forces. His gray eyes had seen humanity's first tentative steps beyond Earth, and now they burned with a cold fire. "So they laughed at us," Webb said, his voice quiet, but carrying an edge that could cut steel. "They think we're children playing with toys. The Council sees us as primitives, Admiral. They believe our technology is worthless, our military capabilities non-existent." Sarah leaned forward in her chair. "But I saw something in their eyes when I made that final statement. Fear, maybe. Or at least uncertainty." Webb nodded slowly. "Good. Fear is a tool we can work with." He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. "Sarah, what I'm about to show you is classified at the highest levels. Only 12 people on Earth know the full scope of what you're about to see." The hologram showed a massive facility hidden beneath the lunar surface. Dozens of sleek, angular ships, unlike anything in Earth's official fleet, filled vast hangars carved from solid rock. "Project Phoenix," Webb explained. "We've been developing it for 15 years, ever since our first contact with alien technology. While our public fleet uses conventional drives and weapons, Phoenix has been building something very different." Sarah stared at the display in amazement. The ships looked nothing like the bulky, utilitarian vessels she knew from Earth's Space Force. These were elegant, deadly, and somehow gave the impression of predators at rest. "Our scientists have been working in secret with quantum mechanics, dark matter manipulation, and technologies that would make those council members reconsider their assumptions about human capability." Webb's smile was sharp. "They want to see what humanity can do when we're properly motivated. We're about to show them." Captain Elena Rodriguez floated in the pilot seat of the prototype ship designated Phoenix 1, her hands dancing across controls that responded to both touch and thought. The ship's AI, an artificial intelligence more advanced than anything publicly acknowledged, spoke in her earpiece with a voice like warm honey. "All systems green, Captain. Quantum drive online. Stealth field generators at full capacity. Weapon systems armed and ready." Elena had been testing Phoenix technology for 3 years, but she still felt a thrill every time she took one of these ships out. The Council had laughed at humanity's chemical rockets and metal armor. They had no idea that while Earth's public fleet used conventional technology, the Phoenix program had leaped ahead by centuries. "Phoenix Control, this is Phoenix 1, Elena spoke into her comm. "Beginning stealth test run, activating quantum displacement field." The ship around her seemed to shift, not visually, but in some deeper way that touched the edge of human perception. On her instruments, Elena watched as Phoenix 1 became invisible to every form of detection the galaxy's most advanced species had ever developed. "Ghost protocol is active," she reported. "No electromagnetic signature, no gravitational disturbance, no quantum wake. As far as the universe is concerned, we don't exist. Back on Earth." Admiral Webb watched the test through real-time feeds. Phoenix 1 had effectively vanished from every sensor system they possessed, including technology reverse-engineered from alien sources. The ship could fly directly through a Council fleet and never be detected. "Phase 2 of the test," Webb ordered. "Weapons demonstration." Elena's fingers found the firing controls. The weapon systems that armed Phoenix 1 didn't use crude projectiles or simple energy beams. They manipulated matter at the quantum level, creating destructive effects that could tear apart the molecular bonds holding enemy ships together. The test target, an old Earth destroyer scheduled for decommission, floated 3,000 kilometers away. Elena locked onto the target and fired. The destroyer didn't explode in the conventional sense. Instead, it simply came apart, its molecular structure losing cohesion as quantum fields disrupted the forces holding its atoms together. In seconds, a warship that had taken 2 years to build became a cloud of component particles drifting in space. "Quantum dissolution cannon test successful," Elena reported, her voice steady despite the awesome power she had just witnessed. "Target completely neutralized. No debris field, no energy signature. Total molecular breakdown achieved." Admiral Webb leaned back in his chair, satisfaction evident in his expression. The Council had dismissed humanity as primitive children. They had no idea that human ingenuity, when properly focused and motivated, could achieve in decades what other species took millennia to develop. "Phoenix 1, return to base," he ordered. "It's time to accelerate the program." Over the following months, Earth's secret shipyards worked around the clock. The Phoenix program, originally planned as a long-term development project, shifted into overdrive. Humanity had been humiliated before the galaxy, dismissed as unworthy of even basic consideration. But humans had always been at their most dangerous when their backs were against the wall. The quantum drives that powered the Phoenix fleet could move ships faster than anything in the known galaxy. The stealth systems made them invisible to detection. The weapons could tear apart matter at the subatomic level, and most importantly, the ships were crewed by humans who had been told they weren't good enough. Admiral Webb stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, watching as the first squadron of Phoenix-class destroyers prepared for their maiden voyage. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining breakthrough physics with the kind of innovative thinking that had taken humanity from wooden sailing ships to interstellar travel in less than 5 centuries. The Council wanted to know what humanity could offer the galaxy, he said to Sarah, who had joined him to witness the historic moment. "They're about to find out." The ships began to move, their quantum drives creating ripples in space-time that were invisible to conventional sensors. One by one, they vanished into the darkness between stars, carrying with them the promise that Earth would never again be dismissed as primitive or weak. Humanity had been cast out of the galactic community. Now they would show the galaxy exactly what they had rejected. The age of human dominance among the stars was about to begin. The rise of the Phoenix fleet. 5 years had passed since Ambassador Sarah Chen walked out of the Galactic Council chambers, carrying with her the sting of rejection and the seeds of transformation. Earth had not been idle during those years. While the galaxy continued its ancient routines of trade, diplomacy, and the occasional border skirmish, humanity had undergone a revolution that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. Captain James Morrison, callsign Phoenix, stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, the flagship of Earth's new fleet. The bridge bore no resumes. Glance to the cramped, utilitarian command centers of the old Earth vessels. Holographic displays floated in 3-dimensional space around the crew positions, responding to gesture and thought. The walls themselves were made from programmable matter that could reshape itself according to tactical needs. Status report, Morrison requested, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had earned respect through competence rather than rank alone. "All Phoenix-class vessels report ready, Captain," replied Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim from the tactical station. "Stealth fields are active. We're invisible to their sensors from here to the Andromeda Galaxy." Morrison nodded, studying the tactical display that showed the positions of his fleet. 64 ships hung in space around him, each one a technological marvel that would have seemed impossible just a decade earlier. The Phoenix fleet represented humanity's answer to galactic rejection, but it was more than just advanced technology. It was proof that when humans were pushed to their limits, they didn't break, they evolved. The communication officer, a young woman named Jessica Park, looked up from her station with excitement barely contained in her professional demeanor. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal. It's coming from the Kepler system, about 6 light-years from our current position." Morrison raised an eyebrow. The Kepler system was within Council space, specifically territory controlled by the Zelion Trade Federation. If someone was calling for help there, it meant they were either desperate enough to risk broadcasting their location to potential enemies, or they were facing something bad enough that secrecy didn't matter anymore. "Can you identify the source?" Morrison asked. "It's a merchant vessel, sir. According to the signature, it belongs to a species called the Vrixian, small independent traders. They're reporting engine failure and—" "Oh!" Jessica's expression darkened. "They're under attack by pirates." Morrison felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders. The Phoenix fleet had been created to show the galaxy that Earth couldn't be dismissed, but they had never been tested in actual combat against alien forces. This could be their first real encounter with the wider galactic community since the Council's rejection. "Time to intercept?" he asked. "At maximum quantum drive, we could reach them in 47 minutes, the navigation officer reported. "But, sir, if we respond to this distress call, we'll be revealing our presence to Council space traffic controllers." Morrison was quiet for a moment, considering the implications. The Phoenix fleet's existence was still a closely guarded secret. Admiral Webb's plan had been to remain hidden until Earth was ready to make a dramatic revelation of their new capabilities. But somewhere in the darkness ahead, innocent beings were dying while pirates took their cargo and destroyed their lives. "Helm, set course for the Kepler system, maximum speed," Morrison ordered. "Signal the fleet to follow in formation. And Lieutenant Commander Kim?" "Yes, sir." "Prep the quantum dissolution weapons, but keep them set to minimum dispersion. We want to disable those pirate ships, not vaporize them." Morrison's expression hardened. It's time the galaxy met the new Earth. The merchant vessel Gentle Current drifted helplessly in space, her engines dead, her hull scarred by weapon impacts. Captain Zixara pressed one of her 4 hands against the view screen, watching as the pirate ships closed in for the final attack. Her species, the Vrixians, were peaceful traders who had never developed advanced weapons technology. They relied on speed and stealth to avoid conflicts, but today their luck had run out. "Captain, they're demanding we prepare to be boarded," her first officer reported, his translator converting his clicking speech into standard galactic. "They want our entire cargo manifest and all our navigation data." Zixara's mandibles clicked together in frustration. The pirates were Korthani, the same species as Chancellor Vextar, but these were outcasts from their own civilization, using their natural strength and advanced technology to prey on weaker species. Their ships were military-grade vessels that could outfight anything in the merchant fleet. "Do we have any choice?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "None that ends with us alive," her first officer replied grimly. That's when the impossible happened. The pirate ships simply stopped. Their engines died, their weapons powered down, and their communication systems went silent. On Zixara's sensors, it appeared as though the 3 heavily armed cruisers had spontaneously shut down every system aboard their vessels. "What's happening?" Zixara whispered. Her sensor operator, a nervous young Vrixian named Telik, stared at his displays in confusion. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures all around us, but I can't see anything. It's like invisible ships are surrounding the pirates." "That's impossible," Zixara replied, but even as she said it, she wasn't sure she believed her own words. The communication system crackled to life, and a voice unlike any she had ever heard filled the bridge. It was alien, but somehow warm, speaking in perfect galactic standard with an accent she couldn't identify. "Merchant vessel Gentle Current, this is Captain Morrison of the UES Prometheus. Are you in need of assistance?" Zixara exchanged glances with her crew. None of them had ever heard of a species called UES, or a ship named Prometheus. But whoever they were, they had just disabled 3 pirate cruisers without firing a shot. "Captain Morrison," she replied carefully, "we are grateful for whatever you did to stop those pirates, but we cannot see your vessel on our sensors." "That's intentional," Morrison's voice replied with what sounded like amusement. "We'll decloak one ship so you can see who you're talking to." The space in front of Gentle Current shimmered, and suddenly a ship appeared where empty vacuum had been moments before. Zixara gasped. The vessel was unlike anything she had ever seen, sleek and angular, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It was clearly built for war, but its design was elegant rather than brutish. "Who are you?" she whispered. "We're humans," Morrison replied, "and we're here to help." The name meant nothing to Zixara, but something about the way Morrison said it suggested she should remember it. Around them, more ships began to decloak, revealing a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The vessels moved with impossible grace, their forms shifting and adapting as she watched. "The pirates will be fine," Morrison continued. "We've disabled their systems, but they're unharmed. However, I suggest you complete your repairs and leave the system before they manage to restore power to their ships." "But who are you really?" Zixara asked. "What species builds ships like these?" There was a pause before Morrison answered, and when he did, his voice carried a weight that made her antenna tremble. "We're the species the Galactic Council said wasn't worthy of membership. We're the ones they laughed at and dismissed as primitive. We're humans, Captain Zixara, and we're not going away." The human ships vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving Zixara alone with her crew and 3 disabled pirate vessels. But the memory of what she had witnessed burned in her mind like a beacon. News of the encounter spread through the trading networks faster than ships could carry it. Within weeks, every major port in the galaxy had heard whispers of mysterious vessels that could appear and disappear at will, of weapons that could disable entire fleets without causing permanent damage, of a species called humans who had somehow leaped from primitive chemistry to impossible technology, seemingly overnight. The story grew with each telling, but the core facts remained consistent. Earth, the world the Council had dismissed, had built a fleet that made their most advanced warships look like children's toys. In the crystalline halls of the Galactic Council, Chancellor Vextar read the reports with growing unease. The humans, those primitive creatures who had been laughed out of the chambers just 5 years ago, were apparently possessing technology that surpassed anything in the known galaxy. It must be exaggeration, he told his advisors. Frightened merchants embellishing their stories. Humans were barely capable of interplanetary flight when they came before us. But deep in his mind, Vextar remembered the look in Ambassador Chen's eyes as she left the council chambers, the promise she had made, the quiet certainty that humanity would be back. General Korth of the Altarian Defense Force was the first council military leader to encounter the Phoenix fleet directly. His patrol squadron was investigating reports of unusual activity in the neutral zone when they detected energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. "General, we have multiple contacts approaching at impossible velocity," his sensor operator reported. "They're moving faster than our fastest interceptors, but showing no drive signatures we can identify." Korth studied the tactical display, his scaled hide rippling with unease. "How many ships?" "Difficult to say, sir. The signatures keep appearing and disappearing. Could be anywhere from 5 to 50. Before Korth could respond, his communication system activated without authorization from his crew. The voice that emerged spoke in perfect Alterian, but with that same strange accent other reports had mentioned. Alterian vessels, this is Commander Rodriguez of the Phoenix Fleet. You are entering a restricted area. Please alter course immediately. Korth's eyes narrowed. No species he knew of could override Alterian military communication systems, and the Phoenix Fleet was just a myth circulated by nervous traders. Unknown. Contact, this is General Korth of the Alterian Defense Force. Identify yourself immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. The response came with what sounded like a sigh. General, we're trying to be polite here. This area is off limits because we're conducting weapons tests. For your own safety, please change course. Korth's pride burned hot. The Alterians were one of the most advanced military species in the Council, and he wasn't about to be turned away by unknown aliens hiding behind sensor ghosts. All ships, advance formation. Charge weapons and prepare to engage unknown contacts. What happened next became legendary in Alterian military circles. The space around Korth's squadron suddenly filled with ships that materialized from nothing. Not 5 or 50, but hundreds of sleek, deadly vessels that surrounded his force like predators circling prey. Each one was clearly designed for war, but their technology was so advanced that Alterian sensors could barely comprehend what they were seeing. General, his tactical officer whispered, I'm reading power signatures that suggest each of those ships could destroy our entire squadron without effort. Impossible, Korth breathed, but his voice lacked conviction. The human commander's voice returned, and this time it carried a note of authority that made Korth's spine straighten in vole. Unterrily. General Korth, you're looking at the Phoenix Fleet of Earth. We're the species your council rejected 5 years ago, the ones you called primitive, the ones you said weren't worth your time. There was a pause that seemed to stretch forever. We've been busy. Korth stared at the tactical display showing hundreds of impossible ships surrounding his forces. Slowly, the pieces began to fall into place. The reports from traders, the mysterious technology, the species name that had seemed vaguely familiar. You're the humans, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. That's right. And right now, General, you have a choice. You can try to fight us, in which case your squadron will be disabled and you'll return home with a story that no one will believe. Or you can accept our polite suggestion to leave this area and report back to your superiors that Earth is no longer the primitive world they remember. Korth looked around his bridge, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in his officers' faces. The smart, tactical decision was obvious, but his pride as an Alterian warrior made it difficult to accept. If I leave, he said carefully, what guarantee do I have that you won't attack Council territory? You have our word, the human commander replied. Humans don't make war on innocents, General, but we also don't forget insults. The Council made their position clear 5 years ago. Now we're making ours clear to you. The human ships began to fade back into invisibility, but their presence could still be felt like pressure in the vacuum of space. Tell your council, the commander's voice said as the last ship vanished, that humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist among the stars. We're here, we're staying, and the galaxy is about to change whether they like it or not. General Korth returned to Council space with a report that shook the foundations of galactic politics. Humanity, the species that had been dismissed as primitive only 5 years earlier, had not only achieved technological parity with the most advanced Council members, but had apparently surpassed them entirely. Emergency sessions were called. Military advisors studied every scrap of intelligence they could gather about human capabilities. Trade representatives reported that human ships were appearing throughout neutral space, offering protection to merchant vessels and aid to colonies in distress. But the humans never attacked. They never threatened. They simply existed, a growing presence that made every other species in the galaxy reassess their assumptions about technological development and military power. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now promoted to Secretary of Interstellar Affairs, received the formal invitation 3 months after General Korth's encounter. The Galactic Council, in language carefully chosen to avoid admitting error, requested Earth's presence at a special session to discuss mutual cooperation and technological exchange. Standing once again in the crystalline chambers where she had been humiliated years earlier, Sarah felt the weight of vindication. The same delegate, who had laughed at humanity's primitive technology, now looked at her with a mixture of fear and respect. Chancellor Vextar, his forearms folded in what might have been contrition, addressed her directly. Secretary Chen, the Council has reconsidered Earth's position in galactic affairs. We believe there may have been misunderstandings in our previous evaluation. Sarah smiled, but it wasn't a warm expression. Chancellor, 5 years ago you told us we weren't worthy of membership, that our technology was primitive, our military capabilities non-existent, that we should come back when we had something more than determination to offer. She gestured to the holographic display now showing specifications for Phoenix Fleet vessels. Well, we're back. The chamber fell silent as delegates studied the impossible technology displayed before them. Ships that could bend space-time, weapons that manipulated matter at the quantum level, stealth systems that made vessels undetectable to any known sensor technology. However, Sarah continued, Earth is no longer seeking Council membership. The silence deepened. Vextar's expression showed confusion. Instead, Sarah said, we're offering the Council the opportunity to join us in a new partnership, one based on mutual respect rather than condescension, one where Earth's contributions are valued rather than dismissed. She paused, looking around the chamber at faces that had once regarded her with amusement and now watched her with something approaching awe. The galaxy is changing, Chancellor. Humanity has shown that determination, creativity, and ingenuity can achieve in years what others take centuries to accomplish. We're not the same species that came before you asking for acceptance. We're the species that builds the impossible and makes it real. The vote was unanimous. Not for Earth to join the Council, but for the Council to accept Earth's offer of partnership. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and everyone knew it. As Sarah walked out of the chambers for the second time, she carried with her not rejection, but the knowledge that humanity had earned something far more valuable than membership in an exclusive club. They had earned respect. And in the darkness between the stars, the Phoenix Fleet continued its silent vigil, proof that when humans are told they aren't good enough, they don't give up. They get better.